Okay, my name is Aubrey Adams, and I do video blogs to give a voice to the people of Colorado, specifically Pueblo, Colorado. And I'm sitting with a family that we're going to just hide their identity just for their own protection and sake, and there's no harassment coming back to them, and their jobs aren't affected. But they are a family that lives in Pueblo, Colorado, with 3 young kids. And the wife is going to talk about her experience with her neighbors who were marijuana users and growers. So do you want to describe what happened after this all happened after the legalization of marijuana?
Sure. Essentially, it came down to we would go out in the yard. My husband, is avid outdoors gardener, things like that, and we'd go out to enjoy the yard and play, and it was very frequent when we'd have to just say, okay, everyone, we got to go inside, because the neighbors would open their back door and just like a cloud of smoke would come out, and it would just stink and it would smell, and it was so strong, being so close in proximity, that we just would have to go inside. And then, of course, at the time, we had a swamp cooler in the adjacent window to their backyard, and whenever we would turn that on, especially in my opinion, it was like later in the afternoon, evening times, we would turn the swamp cooler on, and it would just bring in all of that smell from outside. And so
that's all marijuana.
Yeah, it was all marijuana, and it would just stink the whole house up. And so we'd have to stop using the swamp cooler, and just kind of deal with the heat so that we could just survive the smell, and the worry of contact high and how does that work. And my little kids at the time, I guess it was a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and so it was just over the top with that smell. And then at one point, and this was more recent, I woke up in the morning getting ready for work, and I went downstairs to get something out of the laundry, and I just thought, oh my gosh, somebody broke into my house, and it smelled so strongly of marijuana. And I was so panicked that I called for Matt and said, please go look downstairs, see if there's anybody down there, because somebody broke into the house and I know they smoke marijuana. And so, we searched, we looked at the windows, we looked at the doors, and there had been no break-in, but it was so strong that we just had to air out the entire house. And what was downstairs, that smell just kind of, it eventually came upstairs, and it's a basement, it's enclosed for the most part, except for a couple of windows. And so it just makes you wonder, how close in proximity were these people when they were smoking, which neighbors were it, and it kind of makes you kind of almost like paranoid to think, how close were these people to my house, and why didn't I notice, and what time was it, and all of these things, which kind of caused us to get cameras. And when we started noticing some really interesting cars kind of just parking in the alleyway, it was unnerving. And I remember calling the cops on at least 2 occasions to tell them, there's somebody parked in the alley, can you please come check it out? And anyway, we started noticing that it was the same person, and they would run in and out of the house and make essentially deliveries of what I can only assume to be marijuana, simply because of the drying that we had seen happening out their back door.
So they would dry the plants of marijuana in the backyard out the door where you could see them?
Yeah, clearly visible, hanging. And I'm not familiar with the procedure of all of that, but you could see them hanging in the back. And it was kind of like, exactly, you could smell that once it's so strong. Anyway, so these cars would come through, and all hours of the night, just kind of a constant shuffle of cars. So we got floodlights, we got 2 floodlights, one in the back, one in the front, surveillance cameras in the front and in the back. And then, of course, we started seeing all of this constantly, and even to the point where we had to report it to the police, and detectives were contacting us, and just things like that. And it was really unnerving, having to leave the house to go pick up the kids, going out the back, going out the front, wondering, are people watching the house, or what's going on. So
wow. So the legalization of marijuana Did you have any of these problems prior to the legalization? What would describe your neighborhood prior?
You know, we bought this house. It was a really nice neighborhood. We considered all of that when we bought the house, and we knew it was on a busy street, and other things that you take into consideration. Yeah, it was close to a school. I mean, we're a block away from a K through 8 school now, and so the houses across the street, they were all fixing the houses up. Everything looked really nice, and now I mean, we look for other houses constantly to see what we could do. We want to go somewhere where there's space, where there's land, where we don't have to worry about neighbors being too close. But even with that, you think, well, what if they have a bigger grow? What if they, have something in the basement, in the field, and things like that. And it's just, we wonder what will it do to our property value, and people want to move here. Will our house even sell because of what the community has turned into, what the neighborhood has turned into?
Yeah. Yeah, and even the rural areas, they're getting cartels around them.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of have like mini, drug dealers, drug houses around our neighborhood that we know is fueling the illegal market. And that's one of my messages I always give to everybody, that you can't separate the legal market from the illegal market. They enhance each other. They work together. The legal market is a front for the illegal market, and we are living witnesses to that. We experience that in our own neighborhoods, and hardly anybody is talking about it and giving us a voice. So thank you for sharing that.